Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, I am excited to welcome Ricardo Fayet, the co-founder of Reedsy, who Reedsy is actually one of our trusted third-party partners. They connect authors with top publishing professionals, from editors and cover designers to marketers and translators. Ricardo is the author of 2 books on marketing for authors and a regular speaker at major industry events like NINC, Author Nation, and the Self-Publishing Show Live. So excited to have you here and talk about how Reedsy supports the indie community and how our partnership.
Wait, I'm really sorry. I lost the sound for
You
whatever
did?
reason.
Oh no, that's
I've been
okay.
trying to reconnect my speakers, but
I can hear you. Just so you know. I can hear
this
you.
makes no sense.
Hold on. Do you want me to stop the recording and we can? That's okay.
I'll just try to refresh and rejoin because
Sure.
I'm out of other ideas.
Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry. We can start and stop again. All right.
Yeah, I think we're back.
Yes, I can hear you. You're good.
Yeah, I can hear you as well. I mean, nothing changed, but suddenly I completely lost your sound. Like I couldn't hear you anymore.
Oh no. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I was trying to read your lips, but it would have been difficult for like 40 minutes.
Yes, no, that's true. And I don't have captions on, but okay, well, you're back.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. We're glad to have you back. Thank you so much. Everyone for staying here and we're excited to have you. I guess we can just jump right in at this point. I think we understand what you're here for, and Reedsy is such a great platform. You really help authors to succeed at every stage of their journey. But can you go into a little bit of detail on like what exactly Reedsy does, what services they offer, how is it different from other platforms out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing we started with, and that's still what the main thing we're known for, is our marketplace of publishing professionals. So Reedsy is a place where you can come and look for any kind of professional in the world of publishing to help with your books. So that's starting with editors, proofreaders, cover designers, illustrators. Those are probably our main services, but we also have really good marketers on the platform. When it comes time to marketing, we have very good ghostwriters as well. If you want to expand your business, translators too, and author website designers. So we have pretty much the whole range of services that any author or even publishing company might be looking for. Aside from narrators, like the only service we don't have at this point is narrators. And yeah, that's the main thing I think we're known for, but we also have other kind of services. So one of them is Reedsy Learning. That's our educational component. We have a membership. We basically do events. We do 6 events a year, and then we do a weekly masterclass with a teacher we select. And we offer a membership for like $250 where you can access all of these events all year round. It's a yearly membership. And we also are developing some courses. We have a course on how to write a novel, and we're going to add more courses in the future. So we've got this whole educational component that some of our community is familiar with, but I think we haven't promoted as much outside. And another thing we haven't promoted as much outside is our writing tool, Reedsy Studio, which also has its own like big core audience. I think it's used right now by over 100,000 writers every month who actually write in the tool. Some others use it just for formatting. That's an alternative to Vellum or Atticus, and it's free. It's free for formatting, so you can import your manuscript in there, format it, export it for free. It's browser-based, so you can access it from any device, any browser, etc. And you can also write in there. You can co-write. You can invite other people, like Google Docs, add comments, track changes. And we've recently added premium features where you can set custom goals. So it tells you like how many words you have to write every day, as well as planning features. So you can create boards for characters, locations, story structure, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of technology in Reedsy Studio, and we're spending a lot of time on that. So yeah, I had to talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, we definitely will. And it sounds like, obviously, your platform has expanded quite a bit from where you started, and that's kind of amazing. And I think it's grown so much with, as the industry has grown. But the core of what you guys do, to go back to that, is that you match authors with sort of these professionals. So how does Reedsy vet, the professionals on your platform to make sure that you're providing the best possible experience, for these authors?
Yeah, that's our magic system. Mm-hmm. We vet them based on their work experience mostly. So we look for specific sets of criteria. Mm-hmm. Based on what they've worked on in the past. So for example, for editors, we're mostly going to be looking at experience at one of the big five or at a big literary agency. And we look for at least 5 years of experience in the traditional publishing world. Mm-hmm. If it's someone who's been freelance all their life and only worked with indie authors, then we're going to be looking for big names, big indie author names. Mm-hmm. So we're going to look at all the books that they've worked on, check the reviews, see how the books have done. Look at the editor's work experience, run some background checks, like if they mentioned that worked as a senior editor at Penguin Random House for 5 years and all the books in their portfolio are published by Simon & Schuster, then obviously, something weird going on there. So we do run some background checks as well. And yeah, that's how we basically do the curation. On average, I think we accept less than 5% of people who apply to be on the marketplace. So we make a lot of people unhappy on the freelance side of things, but it is a place where, it is a place of quality.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what differentiates what you're trying to do than just, let's say, an author going out there trying to find a freelancer on their own, right? That's like why they would come to you, because you're vetting these people, making sure they're professional, making sure they know what they're doing. And do you actually, how does the matching even actually work? Is that also curated specifically to the type of author that it is, the type of novel that they're writing, or the type of book that they're writing?
Yeah, we encourage authors to do it that way. But at the end of the day, authors are free to request quotes from whoever they want. Okay. They can only select 5 people to request quotes from, though. Okay. We limit to 5 so that they just don't, spam the entire marketplace with their project. And we encourage authors to filter the marketplace by genre. They can look for specific genres obviously by service. Mm-hmm. A lot of authors are not necessarily familiar with the different types of editing, so we make that information available and we ask them, okay, are you looking for developmental editing, copy editing, proofreading, etc.? Mm-hmm. And they can even search by keyword. Like if they've written, especially for nonfiction, on a very specific subject, like, I don't know, a book on nuclear reactors, you can actually search for nuclear reactors on the marketplace. I'm pretty sure you're going to find someone who mentions that in their profile, work experience, or in their portfolio. So when you're looking for something very specific, you can use that.
So you have a pretty diverse range then of these professionals who have experience with nonfiction, experience with fiction, experience with, maybe kids and things like that. You really try and make sure you have a well-rounded team of these professionals to help the authors.
Yeah, usually we have over 2,000 editors, I think, on the platform. Right now in the summer, around 20% of them are away on vacation. But yeah, and we do monitor the searches. So if we see a lot of searches for a given subject or genre, and we see we don't have a lot of professionals in it, then we're going to try to up our recruitment there.
I see. And, obviously B&N Press is a US focused, platform and with a lot of English speakers, but I assume that you also have people who speak various languages that you work with, to accommodate maybe international authors and things like that.
Not so much. We have we have professionals who speak other languages, especially on the design side of things. And they can mention that on their profile, but we don't really have a search specifically for that. So what we tell authors who, I don't know, someone who's written a book in Spanish, even in the US, and wants a Spanish or Latin cover designer, we tell them to search by keyword for that on the marketplace. So just search Spanish, Latin, whatever. Same thing for editing. For editing, we have 99% of our editors are going to do English only, but we have some editors who do other languages. So search by the name of that language on the marketplace and you might find one.
And so just to confirm, Reedsy is a platform that is available outside of the US. It's for anyone.
Yes,
it's an international, accessibility.
It definitely is accessible from anywhere. The only thing is it's in English. Like everything's in English on it. But if you use, your browser translating features, you can translate it to whatever you want.
Right. So you touched on quickly a little bit of the different types of editing. There's developmental, there's copy. Do you mind going into a little bit more about that? Obviously editing is a huge investment. It's very important for authors if you're trying to have a professional book made. It's both financially, an investment, and creatively. So what are the different types of editing that you offer? And then, what's the budget in mind for these?
Yes, that's a good question. I think the most important part of editing is the big picture editing. Like it's the story, right? The characters, the point of view, the narrative arc, etc. And that's what we call developmental editing. Mm-hmm. So on Reedsy, we've segmented the editorial process in 3 stages. And I say on Reedsy because in other places, people might call things differently. Mm-hmm. But we have 3 stages. Developmental editing, that's going to look at the big picture that I just talked about. Mm-hmm. Then copy editing, so that's a more mechanical edit that's going to look at grammar, consistency, style. Like if a character has blue eyes in the first chapter, they should still have blue eyes in the third. That kind of stuff. Capitalization, consistency, it's a big thing. Even things down to the formatting of like block quotes, dialogue, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then proofreading is the last stage, and that's basically a last read on the manuscript to catch any remaining typos or mistakes that could have also been introduced in the previous stages. Like if the copy editor sometimes copy editors do like 5,000 or 10,000 edits on a manuscript, and obviously mistakes can slip in at that stage. As they fix 5,000 mistakes, they might introduce 10 or 20, and that's what the proofreading stage is there for. Some editors offer some kind of bundles. Like, for example, something pretty common is like hiring a copy editor to do both a copy editing pass and then a proofreading pass. Mm-hmm. That's usually a lot cheaper. But what we say is it's cheaper for a reason. Like a same person, one individual, even a professional person, will tend to catch the same errors and miss the same errors. Like I'm sure you've come across this, like traditionally published books that have like a glaring typo somewhere that it seems only you could see. Like the 5 editors who worked on it couldn't find it. Yeah, that happens, right? So if you hire the same person to go through the manuscript several times, one error that they might have missed in the first pass, they're very likely to miss it in the second.
Right.
So that's the benefit of like hiring several people. But obviously, if you hire several people, it's more expensive than at the end of the day. In terms of costs, we have a calculator. So if you search for like cost of self-publishing, like Reedsy cost of editing, we have a calculator on the blog post that we refresh every year with the latest data from our marketplace in terms of quotes. But like for developmental edit of an 80,000 word manuscript, you can expect to pay $2,000 to $2,500, something like that. Copy edit is going to be a little bit lower, $1,500, and proofread maybe $1,000 to $1,500. And again, this is just to give you a ballpark figure. It varies a lot by genre. Nonfiction tends to be more expensive, for example. And what we recommend, it varies a lot by project as well. Like if you send your manuscript to an editor and they read the first chapter and they see that there's a lot of work that they're going to have to do on it, they're going to charge you more. So what I encourage people to do is like when you're ready, just like share the manuscript with editors and ask them for quotes. You don't commit to anything. You get quotes that are actually accurate. And based on that, you can budget.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it actually brings me sort of to my next train of thought, which is like, okay, what time, like in the process of writing your book, should you even be reaching out to an editor? And you sort of mentioned that it could be, at any point if you have something. Is that true? Like you really can be reaching out to these people at any stage. You don't have to have a finished manuscript, or should you?
It depends on the service you're looking for. If you're looking for editing, or developmental editing, for example, you want a finished manuscript. Like the majority of our purely developmental editors on the marketplace, they're not going to look at something that's not finished. So you ideally want a finished manuscript that you have revised yourself a few times. Like there's a lot of advice on revision out there. on common writing rules, show, don't tell, narrative structure, etc. So like try to revise your manuscript as many times as you can on your own. And usually the time to share it with an editor is when you have brought it as far as you can on your own. Like when you feel like you cannot look at this manuscript any longer, that you've done everything you could, that's the right time to hire a developmental editor. Can you do it sooner? For sure. But they're going to end up catching a lot of things that you might have been able to catch yourself. So you're basically spending money for stuff you could have done yourself. If you're stretched in terms of time, right, for example, then, sorry, now I have Siri who decides to interrupt me. Okay, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
We're good.
I'll keep talking while Siri interrupts me in the background.
It's just multitasking in your brain, you know.
How do I stop?
It's the problem with technology.
Okay, I seem to have gotten rid of it. Amazing. So many hiccups. All
right. We were talking about the timing of it, and you were saying
the first draft.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can share your first draft as well. It's just it's not very efficient from a business perspective.
Right. I think for authors who are looking to really make sure that their budget is used, well, obviously you're saying that this can cost several $1,000s if you want to do it right through your service. So, making sure that you have the finished as possible manuscript makes the most sense, because then it has the less amount of work that you have to do, which means less money that you'll have to spend, throughout this process of editing the book. So that makes a ton of sense. And you guys don't offer like writing assistance, do you? Like as someone who's like, obviously we can talk about AI and all of that stuff. That's sort of a separate thing. And I don't know how if you guys even what you think about AI, but overall, like, do you guys have any sort of help in terms of like writer feedback or assistance? I don't know, I'm just sort of spitballing here about like if there's anything like that on the platform.
No, we do. Absolutely. Okay. So we've added a category within editing for writing coaches. So that's basically what they do is like, if you feel like you cannot complete your manuscript on your own, or if you want ongoing feedback, then you can hire a writing coach. Okay. And what they're going to do is like basically schedule meetings with you every week and give you homework and help you complete the manuscript. And at the same time, obviously provide editorial feedback while you're writing the manuscript. So that's another service, absolutely, that you can look for. It's going to be more expensive. At the end of the day, like any service that you outsource, there's always like either you spend money or you spend time, right? So if you cannot spend the time writing your manuscript yourself and you hire a book coach, that's obviously going to be more expensive than writing the book yourself.
Right.
If you share a first draft with a developmental editor, it's probably going to end up costing you more through the editorial process than if you revise a manuscript a lot on your own. So the more you invest in terms of time, the less you have to invest in terms of money, and vice versa. That
makes a ton of sense. And I think, it really does speak to the wide variety of services, though, that you do offer. I feel like I know we sort of touched on Reedsy Studio again, but if we can speak more to that as well. But is there anything else in there? I think you guys do translations. You obviously help with marketing, cover design, interior formatting. Can you speak to like all these different services that Reedsy offers other than just editing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the second most important one is cover design, because a personal pet peeve of mine is like the covers.
Yes.
Probably of you as well.
I was going to say, working at a book retailer, it's cover design. I hate to say it is very, very, very important.
Yes, it is. And I think a lot of writers realize that they need an editor and they want that editorial feedback. But there's still a lot of writers out there who firmly believe they can do their covers themselves. And now with AI, there's probably going to be more of that because you can create amazing looking images with AI.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into the legal issues of like whether you can use those images on your cover. You shouldn't from a copyright perspective. But like if you want to do it, probably nothing major is going to happen, but you shouldn't. Yeah. But the big issue for me is like the image is only I'd say 50% of the cover. The other 50% is the text on the cover, like title, subtitle, the author name, the series title, any tagline you put on there. And usually I can immediately tell like an amateur cover from a professional one based on the text, not really the image. Because it's fairly easy nowadays with like stock image sites, AI, whatever, to create a nice looking image. There's still a lot of people who don't manage to do that. Don't get me wrong. But the texts, like the typography knowledge, and the knowledge of like where am I going to place this text, which texture am I going to give it, which font am I going to use? Usually, just like ideally with even removing the image on the cover, just by looking at the text, you should be able to tell what genre it is based on the typography, the texture, and all of that. So try to do that little experiment with your cover if you really insist on doing it yourself. And yeah, otherwise, really hire a professional cover designer. That's like my number one advice that I give to all authors out there.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. I think, obviously when you're budgeting for your book, I think other than making sure the interior is professional looking and formatted right and edited and all of that stuff, I think the cover, the outside of it is also like you said, it's the other part of that is just incredibly important if you're trying to sell your book professionally and get it out there and put it on a retail site. So an author comes to your site and they're looking around, and what kind of like typical collaboration can they expect as they're working with an editor or a designer or any of these professional freelancers that you have?
Yeah, ideally we ask our professionals to make it very clear from the get-go what the collaboration is going to look like to avoid any issues in communication afterwards. What I'll say is that, one, you need to reach out to people in advance. Like, these are professionals who are usually pretty busy.
Right.
Some of our editors are booked out 6 months in advance, for example. So if you need a rush job, you can find someone on Reedsy who's going to do a rush job, because there's always someone, who got a slot free or whatever.
Right.
But ideally, you want to plan things a little bit in advance, right? So it's not a bad idea, for example, to commission the cover once the developmental edit is done in parallel with like copy editing and proofreading, because at that point, the manuscript's not going to change that much from a big picture standpoint, so you can do the cover. And in terms of like the collaboration itself, it's not uncommon to not hear from professionals for the first few weeks. Like, basically, they're going to communicate with you when they have something to deliver, right? So sometimes with the authors worried because like, I sent my manuscript to the editor last month and I haven't heard back. They probably haven't looked at it yet. Like, you've sent the manuscript, but they've slotted you in for these 2 weeks. So in these 2 weeks, you're going to hear back from them, and obviously you're going to get their edits, etc. So don't worry too much if you don't hear from a professional you hired. If you become worried, just send them a quick message saying when are you expecting to start working on the manuscript, like that. It's better to communicate issues or worries earlier rather than let them bottle them up and let them explode later.
Yeah. Never good. I want to circle back. I know you talked about, formatting, and you have this thing, Reedsy Studio. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that? And that's a newer feature?
So it's not that new. Like, the formatting side of things, we've had it since 2016, I think. It was called Reedsy Book Editor before. We changed the name to Reedsy Studio just to avoid any confusion around the editors actually on the marketplace. And so it is a free tool, and we introduced premium features recently, but the core features of the tool when it comes to writing and formatting remain free. So you can write your manuscript in there. It's a great writing interface, what I use for both my books. Or if you just want to use it for formatting, you can just import your doc in there. If you formatted it well, we're going to automatically detect the chapters and the parts and all that. And it does all the formatting automatically, all the indents, everything. You can add images, you can add endnotes, and then you can export it in one click to print-ready PDF to send to B&N Press, or to ebook as well with an EPUB file, which you can also send to B&N Press. And yeah, it's a one-click export. It takes a few minutes sometimes to export, and it's free. The difference with other tools, other like Atticus or Vellum,
right,
is that we don't have a ton of formatting options. Like we have 3 templates: one for fiction, one nonfiction, one romance. We're going to add more in the future, and we also don't have super fancy formatting options like start your startup pages with like flower things in the corners, or like a background image in black and white. Like our philosophy is that readers don't really care that much about that. It's more authors who enjoy it, like readers that just want to read, they want a nice reading experience. And if you want something really custom, then you can hire a custom layout designer who's going to do a much better job than an automated tool. If you want like a special edition with a ton of illustrations inside and stuff like that. But on the other side, the tool is free. So for those of you who haven't invested in Vellum or Atticus for your formatting, give it a try first, because maybe you don't need to spend any money to sort out your formatting needs.
Is that the only tool that you guys offer for free on the platform, or are there any others?
In terms of tool, yes and no. I mean, we have a few other tools that are more like fun mini apps, like a character name generator, a book title generator, a plot generator. We have a directory of literary agents, a directory of publishers. So we have a lot of kind of resources like that are free. Or in terms of like proper heavy writing app, yeah, that's the main one.
Do you add like for front matter and back matter or anything, or is that something that the author has to do themselves?
No, so we have preset front matter and back matter sections that you can toggle on and off. So for example, a lot of authors get the order of the front matter wrong, introduction, prologue, all that kind of stuff. So you can edit the front matter and toggle on all the sections that you want: table of contents, introduction, acknowledgements if you want them there, that kind of stuff. And if you want to add like a custom chapter to your front matter, you can just create a new chapter, drag and drop it into the front matter, and name it the way you want. So you've got those two options. But yeah, you can customize your front and back matter. And then we have an also by the author in the back matter where you can add like the images of all your books, the store links, and a short description to create like a nice list of your other books at the end of the book.
That's really cool. So this is obviously like a great tool for newer authors or authors who maybe are just starting out, or even authors who are seasoned and they're just like, this is just a great free tool, so why not use it? But if just speaking to first-time authors, because they're usually looking for the most help, obviously, because this is the first time they're going through this process. And so is there anything during this process of either working with Reedsy or preparing their manuscript that you can advise on, like lessons learned, any mistakes they should look out for that authors have made so that they don't make the same ones? I know we touched on a few things, like, obviously the bigger ones are like, oh, you want to have a professional edited book, you want a professional looking cover, but is there anything like more, in the weeds that you can think of?
There's a lot of in the weeds things we can talk about, but I always have the worry that they're going to shine more than the important stuff. For me, editing and cover design are really the two main things that authors should focus on. There's a lot of tips I can give around that, like especially who you decide to hire, how you should do your research. Like for cover design, for example, one tip that I often give is like the cover is for the readers, it's not for the author. As in, a lot of authors come looking for a cover design. They say, so on my cover, I want this main character of mine. She's female. She's 45. She has dark curly hair, and I want to portray her from like 3/4 with a bit of shadow here. And the book also has a lighthouse, so I want the lighthouse, and it has a balloon in the sky, and it also has a castle, because the castle plays an important part, and there's a sword in her hand, right? And so you think a lot of times as an author about all the important elements in your book, and they need to be on the cover, right? Because they're important to the story.
Right.
But when it comes to covers, you need to think from a reader perspective, right? The only job your cover has to do is attract the attention of the right readers. Mm-hmm. Whether that's achieved with a character, a symbol, like look at Sarah J. Maas's covers, like the Eiko Tower covers, symbol and text, that's it.
Yeah.
And yet that screams romantic, right? Yeah. So look at covers in your genre, see how they achieve to convey that genre element, and try to do something similar. If there's a monastery in your book that plays an important role, but actually a castle, your cover designer comes up with a castle that looks amazing on the cover, mm-hmm. that works. No one's gonna, go through the book and be like, wait, this is a monastery. Let me go back to the cover. Why is there a castle on the cover when they're actually something? No one's gonna go with that, right?
Yeah.
So these kind of details are not important. Think of the cover from the reader perspective and let the cover designer decide what's going to show on it, because usually they have more of a knowledge of what the market wants than you do as an author.
And that's literally why you're there, right? As an author, you're spending money to get their professional advice.
Exactly.
So it's like, don't waste your money if you're not going to take the advice. Actually, that does bring me to just a little bit of a random question that popped into my mind about so we're talking about covers and how you should, as an author, you should research the different covers in your genre and all that. But sometimes you look at all these covers, like let's say romantasy covers, or let's say you're writing a romantasy book, and it's like they all look the exact same. Like, is that a bad thing then for an author coming into this? Because at some point, don't readers' eyes kind of just glaze over when they look at the exact same book over and over again? Like, how do you make a cover stand out when you're also trying to stay on trend?
That's a really good question. And that's why you hire a professional. It's because it's their job to find the balance between meeting genre expectations and standing out.
Yeah.
A lot of times, I think authors try to stand out too much. Like unless you're a very savvy author who really knows what they're doing, usually because you've been doing this for a while and you've written to market and all of that, a lot of authors tend to think that their manuscripts are special, right? Yeah. And are different. And what I always encourage authors to do is to think in terms of similarity rather than, differences. And obviously, you want your book to have your unique voice. Like the differences should shine through the writing. Like the uniqueness of the book should shine through the writing rather than through the cover, the book description, the marketing, etc. Because readers will generally seek reads that are comforting, right? Like that are in their zone of comfort, that are similar to what they enjoyed in the past, rather than, look for something really, really original. If you can add a twist to something that, is like on par with the market, meets everything, and you add a little twist to it, that's great. But usually that's like a plot twist, or that's like, for example, I was reading an indie epic fantasy by an author, Michael Miller. I think he's in Barnes & Noble. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm not going to say that. No, probably not. Should be, though. It should be.
Yes.
And it's a very typical, epic fantasy, very, very similar with a dragon bond. But the dragon is blind. And the enemy is kind of a scourge of kind of a plaguey sort of enemy. So with like a hive mind, right? So that's kind of two unique elements that you throw in there. Otherwise, it's Aragon or any other kind of like dragon bond epic fantasy with its own different plot twists, developments, characters, etc. But you add these two big twists, like the dragon is blind. That's pretty cool, right? That obviously that changes the story a lot and has a lot of implications. So those kind of twists are great to portray in your marketing and on your cover as well. The cover is like a dragon with like these eyes bandaged. So I'm 100% in favor of that, right? But I think usually you first need to really write to market and create similar stuff before you come up with these ideas of like twist on something that already exists, but still stays within the realm of what readers want.
That makes a ton of sense. I think, we always say write the book that you want to read or write the book that you would love to read. And I think when it comes to writing and for authors out there, yes, your idea may be something that has been written about, or, like how many World War II books are there, literary fiction, 1 million. But it's like, it's about your perspective. It's your version of that. And that's going to automatically make it a bit more unique. And I think you're right. Like the cover should sort of embody both of those elements, the uniqueness of your vision, but also stay true to the genre. I touched on romantasy a little bit, which I know is like a very trendy genre right now, but are there any other trends that you're seeing in indie publishing? What are you seeing out there that you would also, want authors to know coming here?
One trend we see a lot is memoirs, because we're on the production stage as well. So a lot of authors who use Reedsy, they're not necessarily professional authors. They don't intend to make a living out of it. But a lot of people have a story to tell and they want their memoir out there, whether it's for their kids, grandkids, family, friends, or whether they intend it for like actual broader commercial appeal. In any and all cases, it's worth, if you can invest into a professional editor, hiring one. Same thing for the cover, just because it will look like and read like an actual book afterwards. But in terms of other trends, I think on the marketing side of things, one trend I'm big on right now is looking at how AI is used right now and how it's going to be used to find books.
Yeah,
right? I think the discoverability of books is about to change in a major way, just because the discoverability on the internet is changing in a major way, and books, whether you want it or not, they're found through the internet in a lot of cases.
Yeah. So AI, obviously that is quite a buzzword these days. And there's a lot of feelings about it, especially in the indie community. And we touched on it a little bit earlier with cover design, but I guess I'm not trying to ask like specifically for your feelings about AI, but like, but you can say that as well. But it's just sort of this idea of like, where do you see AI being implemented? Obviously you mentioned marketing, cover design, like, how do you think AI is impacting indie publishing or publishing in general, from the writing part to the marketing, but formatting, editing? People can use AI to edit their books now. Yeah.
I think it's going to have an impact on every stage of the publishing process, probably. Yeah. Like there's, just because it's going to have an impact on everything else as well.
Yeah.
Again, on everything else that happens online, right? I think it's still, using AI is not always easy, right? Like a lot of times when I've tried to use AI for marketing, right, it's not a magic wand that does thing for you.
Exactly.
So, for example, I've created AI agents to do the Facebook ads reporting for authors, right? They run Facebook ads and they want their reporting. Well, the agent takes the data from the Facebook ads API and puts it in a spreadsheet and analyzes it and all that. It took me like several weeks to build that agent. I could have, like, by doing it manually, those analysis, I would have probably saved time for at least several years. Like it's going to take a few years until that agent actually saves me time, considering the time I invested in it, right? Obviously, now the next one I create will probably work a little bit better. So using AI for any kind of task takes time, right?
Yeah.
To practice, master, etc. So my vision of like how it's going to be implemented in publishing is like, you're still going to need an editor. You're still going to need a cover designer. You're still probably going to want someone to run your ads if you run ads, things like that. Mm-hmm. It's just that these people, if they implement AI into their processes, they can start taking on more clients. They can start lowering their rates, inviting more people in, right? Mm-hmm. That's how kind of I see the future. So not like I've written this book, I give it to an AI for developmental editing, just because that AI might give me a lot of like edits and suggestions and stuff like that, but it's usually like right now it gives you a lot of praise more than anything else. It doesn't give you a lot of critical feedback. But even in the future, what gives you good feedback, like, do you trust it? What do you take from it? What do you not take from it? It's like you share it with a beta reader. Even if it's an amazing beta reader, it's a non-professional advice.
Right.
Right. A developmental editor might use AI tools to analyze the manuscript, and then along with like a thorough read of the manuscript, help compile their edits. I can see that happening, and I think that's a good thing, right? Because it's gonna make their job easier. It's gonna make their job more thorough. It's gonna make probably them cheaper to hire because they can take on more clients.
Right.
So it's gonna lead probably to a democratization of like of publishing. So that's how I envision the future of it.
Yeah, I think, I've mentioned this before in other capacities, that sort of the horse has left the barn on sort of capping AI, especially in our industry. And I think I understand the controversies over like having an AI write a book or whatnot. And obviously the copyright implications. And I know there's been plenty of lawsuits, but I do think as a tool, it can be helpful. And it's something that authors should be aware of and how it works, as opposed to shunning completely, because I think, there are elements to every tool that you may not, that you may be able to use and utilize, especially if you're in the indie space. And again, going back to this idea of budget, where that is the most important, because as an indie author, you are the one financing your project, no one else.
Yeah.
And so being able to offset that budget with something, I think is pretty crucial. So I don't know if that's necessarily like a magic wand, but if you could give authors sort of something to fix, one thing about their publishing process, would it be AI? Would it be something else?
No, I don't think it would be AI, just because like it takes quite a bit of time to master.
Yeah.
And AI helps the most where you're not that good, but at the same time, since you're not that good at something, if you try to replace it entirely using AI, you're still not going to be good at it, because you're not going to be able to use AI in the right way. So it's better used in the hands of like people who know what they're doing already, right? I don't think there's a magic wand. I think the only magic wand is to keep writing every day. I think that's still going to be the magic wand for the next decade in the publishing industry, putting more books out there. Whether you use, AI to help you with that, or a writing coach to help you with that, or you collaborate with ghostwriters to expand on your catalog. All these are viable options, and I think no one should judge you on that, as long as what you publish out there is good and looks good, and readers like it. And if readers don't like it, then take that feedback, share it with an editor, try to understand what happened, and move on to the next series.
Definitely. Okay, so we're getting towards the end here of our conversation. I'm so appreciative that you came and spoke today. How can authors learn a little bit more about Reedsy? I know we have a partnership page. It's reedsy.com/partners/Barnes-Noble-Press, which is a lot, but I guess if you just go to the Reedsy website, it's pretty easy to find all this information. Yeah.
Or if you just Google Reedsy Barnes & Noble, so both our names, you're going to find that partner page first.
And
and from there you can get a discount on editorial services through Reedsy. So if you're a Barnes & Noble Press member, by signing up through that page, you get $25 of credits that you can use on any service on the Reedsy marketplace.
That's awesome. Thank you. And is there any upcoming features other than this, obviously this interview, or events, initiatives that Reedsy is doing that you're excited about, that you'll be at?
Yes, I think one thing we're excited about is like we're really growing our membership for Reedsy Learning. So we're adding more and more weekly events, more instructors, more one-time conferences, like we did one last week, actually on Labor Day. Because like you should work on Labor Day. Anyway,
when you're a writer, you don't really get time off.
Exactly, you don't, and we don't either. So we did a little self-publishing conference with Mark Lefebvre, with James Blatch, to talk about self-publishing and marketing for mostly for first-time authors. We're also looking at that, and we're looking to do more events like that on craft and publishing and marketing. We're really excited about the Reedsy Learning. And for Reedsy Studio, the main thing we're excited about is templates are coming. So right now, if you want to create a character profile, on Reedsy Studio, you just need to create it from scratch in a board, and we're going to add templates for character profiles, for locations, for world building, for story structure, for a bunch of things. So that's going to be really, really cool.
That is really cool. You guys are always innovating, which is so exciting. You're such a cornerstone now of this industry that has just exploded in the last 20 years, 15 years. I don't really know how long it's been, but it's been a long time at this point. It predates me coming into all of this. And it's been amazing to watch you guys grow. We've been a partner for a long time. And so I'm just excited to see where you go from here. I know I'll be checking out all of these features. But thank you so much, Ricardo Fayet, for joining me today. Thanks everyone for watching, and until next time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and sorry for the glitches.
Nah, it's all good. Bye.
Bye.